welcome back to another episode of Rock M Reacts live from the Dome in St. Louis. Post-game following Mizzou's win over Memphis today. A lot went down. We saw a lot of players go down with injury first off, but also a lot of hometown heroes kind of emerged and played incredible games in front of a lot of family and friends, which was great to see. And of course, this team is now 4-0, undefeated non-conference play for the first time since 2014. So there's a lot to really take away from today. I think first and foremost thing that Jane and I want to talk about, though, was just the environment at the Dome today and what it was like to be back in this. I mean, personally, I'd never been, but for a lot of people to be back in this stadium to see a football game, a college football game, especially Mizzou hadn't been here since 2010. For me personally, just walking inside, honestly, I heard a lot of kind of negatives about the Dome coming into it. I really thought it was a great place to watch a game and, to cover a game, to play. Only thing, I mean, the field looked a little shoddy out there, yes, I would certainly say that. But I think just in terms of venue, a really cool stadium to have a game. I think the fans were great. They had a bigger turnout than they expected. I forget the exact number. It was loud in here. I think, being up the press box, we were up in the rafters essentially, which was really cool to kind of have that perspective. But yeah, just really interesting. It was the outside scene in St. Louis was really fun. It almost looked like a Columbia tailgate or Columbia game day with the tailgating scene out there. So yeah, I mean, just kind of your biggest takeaways from being able to cover a game in the stadium.
Well, it's been a while since I've been in the stadium. When I was in my youth, I know I was here for the last time Missouri played Illinois in 2010, which is really cool because I got to sit in the end zone. I was about 7, 8 years old. Then can't quite remember now. And I was also here for a high school state championship and a Rams game, but it is actually much nicer than what I remember. What I remember is a while ago when we first came in here and we looked over because we are actually way up here because we thought we were in the press box. We saw the press box, but I'm like, no, Parker, look up. I mean, we were sitting even higher. So just coming in and looking down, it was kind of like an amazing view. And that's when it was empty. When the fans started filling in, it had a very unique atmosphere, I would say, and it got surprisingly loud. The whole thing. It wasn't a complete sellout, but it got loud. The boos from Memphis were you could hear it, and then the cheers from Missouri. It was great. Also, it was also great to see them cheer on Brady Cook this week compared to what happened last week. You have no boos for Brady Cook, and we'll get into that later. But the scenery outside, fans, everyone having a great time outside. That's great to see, especially away from 120 miles away from the homeland in Columbia. You know how big of alumni fan base St. Louis is. Drew talked about that on Tuesday, and it was just great to see a ton of Mizzou fans out here in St. Louis. Great for the city, great for the great state of Missouri, and that's what I have to say on that.
Yeah, and I think one of Drink's quotes in the postgame was, KC has the Chiefs, St. Louis needs to have the Tigers, and kind of that's what his goal moved forward is, to kind of have this be a Missouri city. Tonight was a great start for it, and I think primarily one of the reasons for that was because so many of these hometown guys had great games. Before we get into the main two, Cody Schrader also had a great game and coming back home too, especially with that clinching run at the end. But the main storyline was Brady Cook and Luther Burden's play. How was Brady Cook going to follow up potentially the best game of his career last week against Kansas State? Burden and coming back home in front of a ton of people that he knows. He's already a celebrity throughout the state, but he's especially a celebrity in St. Louis. How are they going to handle that pressure and kind of, what were they going to come out and do? Their first half was almost picture perfect. I mean, Brady started out 11 for 11, 230-odd yards. Luther was pretty much the benefactor of almost, at least half of those 11 throws, you would think. And it was just the middle of the field. Clearly, Kirby saw something this week in film. The middle of the field was wide open throughout this game. Burden was just somehow, I mean, I don't know how you leave him, but he had too much room to operate with, and he was making Memphis defenders look foolish. Cook just looked at this. It's beginning to strike me. Brady Cook really seems to be a guy to me he's finally putting everything together he's an ultimate guy that's gone through so many different hardships, losing games in crazy ways, making tons of mistakes throughout his career. This is a guy that's finally putting it all together and has seen enough football to where he knows that he's making correct reads out there. He didn't run nearly as much today, obviously, with the knee. He was wearing the brace today. But still, just throwing the ball, this passing offense was dynamic throughout the day. Burden was incredible per usual, tough to take down. Just your thoughts on kind of how those two played in front of a home crowd with, so much being made going into this game about them playing back in St. Louis.
And, man, it's something when you have a good offensive coordinator. And first of all, before I get into that, I had question marks about Kirby Moore coming into this year. You know, he only called plays for 1 year, like really truly be able to transform this offense. And we had our questions after the first 2 weeks, but oh man, these last 2 weeks, his pass first offense has really gotten going. And I think when you have a coordinator like Kirby, it really elevates your quarterback play, and that's shown up the last couple weeks, and even throughout the summer. You know, watching Brady Cook perform, I'm like, you know, and even last year I always said this too. Just keep giving him a shot. Don't quit on him now, because it really showed here in his hometown. That's special. Him and Burden both being able to go off was really huge for this team. And like you said, the city and Brady, like you said, he's getting his confidence. He's looking like one of the better quarterbacks in this conference week in and week out. And you know, that knee was bothering him. Like you said, he didn't run much. But he did have this run down here. I forgot when it was. I thought he was about to score. And that would have been electric.
He still refused to slide today.
Yes,
at
he
all,
did. And Drinkwood said that I got to teach him how to slide.
Yeah.
More. And Schrader always tells him also.
Schrader said that multiple
Schrader
weeks
tells
now.
him when he's running behind him, slide. But he is a tough quarterback, and that's one of the things. You know, as a fan, as someone that likes to watch football, you like a tough quarterback that can just, you know, withstand so much on and off the field, and then go out there and operate the way he did. He started 11 for 11, and then Burden, you know, he's insane. He's a great player. His yards after catch, his strength is just something that, you know, I don't think I've really seen out of a college wide receiver that I can remember. You know, going back to watching college football when I was a kid, but it's amazing. He's one of the better receivers that I have seen, personally, especially for this team in a long time. And this program has had some great receivers come through. So what they're building is special. That chemistry between them two, and it's going to be very fun to watch going down in the stretch and, you know, games to come, especially with SEC play starting up.
Yeah, and we listened to one of those guys, Jeremy Macklin, speak a little bit earlier today, and he was obviously at the middle of the field for the coin toss. And dare I say it, Burden had a very Macklin-esque performance in the dome. Macklin dominated this field twice, and I believe at least twice in his career. And, you know, Burden kind of did the same thing today. It was really impressive to see. I do like your point, though, on the play calling. I think Kirby's found a way, yes, to make Brady very comfortable within this offense and in communicating with him well. I think they're on a great standpoint, but I really think his work with Burden and the fact that going into the season, every defense that was on Mizzou schedule knew we got to take number 3 out of the game somehow. We got to make sure he's not just the X factor for them. Kirby's made it so that that's impossible, because Burden half the time is a distraction, half the time he's the real threat. The defenses don't know. Last year, it was all Burden screen passes, quick pop passes. Now you're seeing him get open over the middle of the field, downfield. They're utilizing him so many different ways. It's going to take an elite defensive coordinator to really try to figure out, you know, what's Luther going to be doing each snap. And even then, it doesn't matter if you know. You're going to have 3 guys getting the tackling him if you want to really stop him. So it's just... I'm really impressed by Kirby Moore. I think, you know, the whole offseason this is one of the up-and-coming names in coordinating. He just hasn't had a lot of practice. I think he is putting just an incredible resume together.
Good family tree. Good family tree where he comes from.
I was going to say, his
brother's well known around college and NFL.
Kellen's already having a good time in the NFL. Who knows, maybe Kirby joins him one day. Maybe Kirby moves on to be head coach at a college level one day.
Kirby's Drinkwood's right-hand man as long as these two are going.
I was going to say, ideally, he stays around here for a pretty long time, but we'll see. Coordinators in the SEC do tend to be a rotating carousel. Yeah. But moving on to kind of some of the more unheralded guys kind of coming into this game that really had to step up. I mean, we'll touch on a little bit later the mass amount of injuries that suffered during this game, but you also had Rakestraw was out coming into this game. We found out post-game it was due to injury. Brett Norfleet similarly out due to injury, a rib injury. So you had a couple of guys really step up today, starting on the offense side of the ball. Marquise Johnson, who for the second straight week had a big catch. This game, of course, was a 76-yard touchdown to kick things off. Very reminiscent of that Luther Burden touchdown to kick things off last week against K-State. Johnson just gets wide open downfield. Mookie himself has said he's the fastest person on the team. A lot of other players have agreed. Drinkwood has said multiple times now the past couple weeks that we need to find more ways to get him the ball. Yeah. Kirby Moore said as well. He's a true speedster. He's your guy that you let him get vertical and go. And you can tell he loves that, and that's what he thrives off of. So I'm really interested to see. You saw, Theo had a touchdown as well, but Marquise seems to be climbing that wide receiver depth chart at this point. Wide receiver 2 is probably a little bit of a reach for year 1 with him as a freshman, but I really think next year he has a chance to emerge as one of the top targets. So just kind of your takeaways on Marquise.
Oh my goodness, that brother is fast. That brother is fast. On that touchdown, they kind of froze him up with the play action, froze the defenders up a little bit, but good ball by Brady Cook. He effortlessly threw that ball downfield. And Marquise, he burned everybody. And then you saw him striding to the end zone, and the defender he was trying to catch up to him, but it was too late by then. But I think the most important play, and aside from the touchdown for Marquise, was on Burden's 56-yard catch, the one that he kind of got banged up on. But on that play, I saw it kind of developing. Marquise, the attention wasn't on Burden when Burden was coming to that side of the field. It was on Marquise because they didn't want him going deep again.
Yeah. And
then Burden came across and caught that ball and turned upfield and started going. And what I noticed about Marquise is he's about 5'11", maybe 180.
Yeah.
He's providing some key blocks on that play as well, and it proved a lot of dividends in that play because Burden, he gained a few extra yards on that play, and every yard matters in football. And then on the next play, Cook finds Theo Weiss, I believe, in the end zone, touchdown, Missouri, up a couple scores. But, that's something good that you want to see from a young wide receiver, especially a true freshman wide receiver playing against a Power 5 opponent. So I thought that was really good for him. And like you said, his catch last week against Kansas State, got separation on his defender, made a great catch, and set up a field goal for Harrison Vivas. So I'm excited for what he does in the future. There's definitely going to be some opportunities for him. I know this is Theo's last year as well, and then a lot of other guys are going to be getting older. So, and after the game, he said he's kind of calm and collected. I believe he said that the pressure doesn't really get to him or not. He was out there to play.
He approached that press conference like a senior.
He's
not a freshman. He talked like he had his answers down. It was the typical player speak, but it's what they teach him to say. He was not the type of person you're gonna, freshman that's in there not knowing what to say. They're gonna say something wrong and be all in the media.
I know if I was 18, 19 years old up there, I would be.
Especially just having caught a touchdown pass to open the game. You're probably feeling great about yourself. But credit to him for that. I do think I'm really interested to see going forward. I think they're going to continue to just take at least a couple shots with him a game. I think you'd be hard pressed not to doing that. But
if you don't have the defenders to cover him, good luck.
Exactly. It's going to take someone DBs that run sub 4.4s to really keep up with him. So elsewhere in the offense, though, did want to give a quick shout out Jordan Harris, who. Obviously, Norfleet was out in this game, so you had Tyler Stevens, and then Jordan was kind of coming in and being that next option. Drinkwitz and Cody Schrader both talked about his blocking and how he diagnosed some blitzes late in the game, especially on Cody's touchdown run, which was really great. They were really impressed with him. I can't emphasize enough, this guy, if you do not know, started playing football in senior year of high school. This is only his second year of playing football. The sky is the limit for this guy, 6'4", 240 pounds, so I really think just this could be the type of performance that Norfleet's been playing great as well. So it's going to be difficult to differentiate between the two of them because they both got potential going forward. They're both freshmen. But you like what you saw from them.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Jordan, Brett, Tyler Stevens. Mizzou's known for some great tight ends, right? But those tight ends, I think of Chase Kaufman, Martin Rucker, Michael Agnew, they were great in the receiving game. What these cats do now, speaking with Stevens, Norfleet, and Harris, they do a lot of stuff that you're not going to see on the stat sheet. You don't really just see with the naked eye because those guys, they're going to contribute in the blocking game as well. And then the catches will come. We saw Norfleet get a catch last week. But the big thing with tight ends that you always love and it translates well to the NFL is if you can block. And also communication is key. And with Jordan Harris, you saw Drinkwood say that he communicated an entire call down the line of scrimmage. Which helped pave the way. I don't know if that was on Schrader's touchdown run.
I believe it was. That's what he said, yeah. And Drinkwood said he's never seen a freshman be capable of even doing that.
When you have a freshman that's vocal like that, that's going to translate big in future years to come. So just having tight ends that can do that and contribute well in the blocking game, because receivers, they're going to go out there, they're going to go get the receiving yards, but having tight ends that can do that and be vocal, that is something that is big for an offense. And I think it's very underrated, especially in the game of football. It always has been back then and even today, where you see, you think receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, they're always the flashy players, but the fullbacks and tight ends, you get them involved. Well, I know Mizzou doesn't have any fullbacks, but you get the tight ends involved in all aspects in the game. It's going to produce some positive results.
Bring back some tight end U vibes at University of Missouri. We need it again. Fullbacks too. That'd be fun. Throw it back. They brought out a wishbone at one point.
Yeah, I think they were in I formation a little bit with the tight ends. I think it may have been Harris in the back.
It's lovely to see.
The backfield,
some good nostalgia. Moving on, defensive side of the ball was kind of really where we saw some guys step up. The DB room, I believe Drinkwood said post-game, you entered this game with 3 healthy cornerbacks. You got down to 2 at a certain point. starting off, Drayden Norwood, I really thought had 2 pass breakups, what really just popped off the field today, I think. And the coaching staff's been really high on him, saying, yes, you hear about Rakestraw, you hear about KD, rightfully so, but Drayden's really impressed now in his second season, kind of used to the program, used to Baker's defense more. They said they really thought he's going to be a high-quality third rotational piece. He showed that today, great in coverage. He unfortunately got injured. I believe it was around halfway point of the game.
It was actually during where he came in on a sack.
Yes, that's
well,
what it was.
It wasn't a sack, but it was a fumble.
He forced the
on a blitz.
which is crazy. He was all over the field. Marcus Clark steps in for a Miami transfer. He was beat on some throws, but also had the key interception late in the game as well. He played admirably. So, you're looking at that, and you had Norwood and Clark both step up. Marvin Burks also played, I think, a solid game, especially early on in the back end. And it was a game in which you had to have these guys step up because you didn't have Rakestraw out there. You had guys getting banged up left and right. KAD walked off the field at one point, It was really impressive. I think it's a testament to the depth that they have built on this team. That's what happens when you have multiple top 10 recruiting classes and you hit the transfer portal pretty well. But it speaks to the depth that they have and the fact that they were able to survive something like this against a quality, opponent in Memphis. They were able to overcome those injuries. I was just really impressed. So, I mean, out of those 3 guys, who kind of, impressed you the most or, popped out?
I know Norwood for sure early on. Like you said, those 2 pass breakups. Those are very noticeable because those are both on 3rd downs, I believe, and then he had that sack that resulted in that fumble. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He was having a heck of a game. And then Marvin Burks, I noticed before Memphis scored on this 4th and goal down here, the 2 plays, the first down and 3rd down, true freshman, he made 2 good plays to put Memphis in that situation. But, those guys fly around fearless. And then, Marcus Clark, it wasn't the sharpest day for him, we can be honest. I mean, they were getting beat on some one-on-ones. I think Drinkwitz, he was not happy with the man coverage today. But he did get that interception down here on the other end zone, and that translated right into a field goal for Missouri. And Missouri won this game by, 7 points? So, the plays like that helps flip the field. And Missouri, we talk about a defense that needed turnovers after the first 2 weeks where they didn't force any. And you played in a close game against Middle Tennessee State because Chris Abrams-Drain had an interception down here, and then you got Clark's interception down here. It translates to points and helps translates to a win. But you speak on the depth of this team. That's key going down forward, especially in the SEC play, because it's always next man up. You need players to be able to come in late in the season where you're just hurting, and some guys aren't just going to be available. It's a football. You're never really 100% during the season, so you need those guys to step up, and they fly around fearlessly. And Chris Abrams-Drain, he specifically said about Drayden Norwood and Marcus Clark after the game that them competing in practice helps build their confidence, and he didn't really have a concern when they went out there on the field to join him in that defensive secondary. So great game by both of them.
KD always just seems kind of so. He's 2 steps. He's 2 steps ahead. Like he knows what's coming. He's all right. He was talking post game about how he's at the point where he's reading keys to where he's knowing what they're doing.
I think was a Dove out there. He knew that were the route.
He
knew the route. He knew the route.
He knew Toski's routes. That's for sure. But I think another point on that, you mentioned Drinkwitz about the man coverage. That was the one thing Drinkwitz probably post game was the most upset about, is how many guys were running free off man coverage, either from beating someone or just busted coverages. Something that he and Baker are definitely gonna work on in the future. And my last point on Marvin Burks, I forget if I've said this before. Marvin Burks doesn't look like a freshman. He's perhaps one of the, I don't know how to say it properly, but one of the freshmen that just looks the most physically like an upperclassman. He looks like he belongs in SEC football already, and it's crazy.
It's like that with him, Johnson, Norfleet, Harris, this freshman class. They're kind of stepping up in a way, which is exciting if you're a Mizzou fan and have great aspirations moving forward the next few years in the future. So that's great to see that these guys, and it seems like they haven't really had that in a while, like just true freshmen, and a ton of them coming here and just contributing in a way, and it's really helped translating the wins.
Yeah. And as we kind of wrap things up, but the running game struggled in the first half for sure. It was definitely more pass heavy, and that was, again, this game plan the past 2 weeks has kind of leaned on that. Against stronger opponents, you're not going to be able to run the ball successfully too much. Drink said post game he thinks the best teams aim to score in the first half and then try to establish the run game in the second half. That's exactly what they did tonight. Cody Schrader had a far better second half. You saw Pete get a lot of quality touches. You saw, to all the people that have been talking about recently, Pete got 15 touches tonight. Cody Schrader got 40 carries at least, not counting pass receptions. But so pretty evenly split between the two of them. Both of their shots, they both, I think both played pretty admirably. The offensive line really imposed its will late in the game, and I think that's the first time this season we've truly seen that, to where they were just opening up some great alleys. It seemed like Memphis was getting worn down as the game went on. Really impressed with kind of how they iced the game at that point. And going forward, you hope that you'll see more from the offensive line doing that again against SEC opponents. It's going to be very different. But on the negative side of things, because we can't keep it all positives here. The injuries, primarily, that was the biggest thing tonight. I mean, it was a laundry list of people. You saw Darius Robinson, who Drinkwood said postgame has been dealing with a calf strain for a couple weeks. He's just playing with it, and it can give out on him at any moment. It unfortunately gave out on him in the first quarter here. Drink said postgame that the debate going forward is going to be, do we rest D-Rob for a week and kind of let him get back to 100%? How do we go about that? That'll be an ongoing conversation. DB room was absolutely ravaged. We've talked about that. Brady Cook was banged up at a certain point. Xavier Delgado walked off the field. I believe he returned. Luther Burden even was out of the game for a while. You saw Mookie Cooper go down with a head injury. I mean, it's a long list. Yeah, it could have been a penalty on that one too. I mean, there's some others I'm even missing, but it's unfortunate heading in now. You're getting into conference play and you're dealing with these injuries as opposed to later on, but it happens. It's the course of the season. So my concern level, I guess, not too high there. I do think I was interested to see Brady designed runs. I believe only 2 tonight.
Wasn't that many? He didn't take
and that's.
any cares.
I think you're going to see max 2 or 3 design runs. He scrambled probably 1 or 2 extra times. Yeah, I think this offense is at its best when he is able to run the ball effectively. That's something also worth monitoring forward. But kind of, are you concerned about? We talked a lot about the depth of the team. Are you concerned with some of these injuries going forward, or do you think they're going to manage?
Well, football is a battle of attrition. It's the right word, right?
Yeah.
Battle of attrition. So this is just like, this is what happens in this. It's a brutal game, and like I said, this depth it eases the worry going forward. But the injuries that this team has suffered, none of them seem like too severe. We're going to talk about this upcoming schedule in a bit, but going into Vanderbilt, I don't think that. You can probably go in there without, a couple guys. Darius Robinson, another guy, I hope so.
Yeah.
Darius Robinson, that's a big loss because he had a sack on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
So,
He's playing well.
It's a battle of attrition. Drinkwood said the main thing he wants his guys to do, the biggest thing he wants to take in the SEC play is get these guys healthy. And, that's something that, it just, like I said, it happens in football. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, your main offensive playmakers are still healthy. Well, Cook, he's still playing. I wouldn't say he's completely healthy.
I don't know if Cook's ever going to be 100% healthy, but that's going to be
happens
fine.
with quarterbacks all the time. But your running back in receiving room, your O-line seems pretty stable at this point. Defensively, up front, and within, because really the thing with football matters, if you're healthy and strong within the trenches, you should be all right. And it seems like Missouri's really healthy along the front 7 and in the trenches. And hopefully blanking on his name, could come back linebacker,
Chad Bailey.
Yeah, Chad Bailey.
He was back tonight. He had 5 tackles.
Yeah, he did.
This was kind of his first true game back.
Yeah, it's late.
It is
late. I forgot, but he's back. So
it is currently midnight.
It is late, but he was back out there tonight. I don't know why I forgot that. So front 7, the trenches, all pretty much healthy. That's the key to winning football games. And then you saw with the depth in the secondary, we see guys step up. And then offensively, it seems all right. So I'm not truly concerned about what's going on out there. So
I'm gonna say I do think getting Chad back tonight was really huge. He did have a good impact on that game as well.
He was out. Let's sneak back a little bit.
But another thing, just for any Mizzou fans that are speculating, someone did ask Cody Schrader post game if the turf did play any factor. Schrader said no. Again, the turf probably wasn't the highest quality, but not many of those injuries out there seemed necessarily turf-related. It seemed a lot more based on hits. Yeah. Again, all speculation, but just to throw it out there. The last negative point to go off of, and I didn't even realize this till after the game somehow, because the drives, it was just chunk play after chunk play, so it didn't matter. Mizzou was 0 for 8 on 3rd down tonight. Drinkwood said he doesn't even know if that's ever happened to a team that he's coached and still won the game. Again, tons goes, so many different factors go into, going 0 for 8 on 3rd down and every single 3rd down conversion that you attempt. It's something that coaching staff, obviously, they're going to need to figure out going into this week. Just kind of, I don't have too personal of a concern level with this. I will say the subtraction of Brady Cook's running game potentially will hurt your third down chances for the rest of the season just by purely numbers and the amount of threats that you have in the field at a time. But in a game like this, especially where it was close throughout, you would have hoped that they got a couple more conversions. So, I mean, your level of concern with the third down rate, which, again, maybe it's just a one-off thing, but...
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever watched or played in a game where a team converted 0 third downs, just like 1 third down, and came away with a more convincing victory than Missouri did tonight. But like you said, they made up for it with chunk plays. I think a lot of times it might be kind of like an anomaly with these type of things, just kind of like a random stat. So it's not something that I'm too concerned with, just the way the offense was still able in a way to move the ball. One of the third downs they got backed up during penalties.
Yeah.
So it's just little things like that. I don't think it's really a concern, but you still come away with $34 in this business. So that's
all that matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters. You scored 34 points. So I don't think if they would have scored 13 points, 12, 10, then that's where he says some red flag, which would have been something last year we would have seen. But
0 for 8 on third down.
0 for 8 is third down is weird. I didn't realize it, like you said, either.
But it does not quite match being a 1-0. Those are two very different numbers.
4-0.
I was using the Mizzou football team mantra though of entering every week wanting to go 1-0. They don't care about going 12-0. They want to be 1-0 every week.
Care about LSU in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
We won Vandy.
Speaking of which, we will be in Nashville next weekend for the Vanderbilt game. Making a return trip. Past 2 years with Vanderbilt have been very interesting. They've been dogfights each time, as Drinkwitz kind of said himself. Vandy's in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. AJ Swan, I don't know if he was benched today or injured, but he did toss a couple interceptions in a rough performance against Kentucky. Will Shepard had a decent start to the season, but's kind of weaned off in these recent weeks. Vandy's defense has looked very shoddy at best. Going ahead, A, you've got these injuries that you got to deal with. B, you're entering conference play. That's a whole different beast, and you've got plenty of great matchups kind of lying down the road. At the beginning of the season, even before the season, I looked at the schedule, and I think a lot of people did too, and say, wow, you could be 5-0 going into that LSU game and be ranked. Knock on wood, maybe College Game Day comes to town for that. Red River is also that week, but maybe we can pull some strings. That's the dream. That is the dream. You set up a night game against LSU and a chance to prove that you are potentially a contender in the SEC this season.
Playoffs. Your more quote playoffs?
That's a statement. I can't even imagine playoffs, but I mean, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
And yes, beating LSU, you'd be right in that mix. So looking ahead, you have to take care of Vanderbilt this week, though. What does Mizzou need to do? The same as tonight and also just better to be able to take down the Commodores, a team that, again, is going to fight them no matter what.
Buckle up. The SEC schedule is going to begin. Every week's Kansas State. Every week is a high, intense matchup. And I'm saying this based on history. It's weird when Missouri plays Vanderbilt. There's been some weird games when they've played Vandy. I know last time they went down there, it was a dogfight until I think Bazelak threw a Hail Mary and that broke the game open. But 2 years ago before that, they went down there and lost as a ranked team. And they'd lost there in 2015. Vanderbilt came up here and came to Columbia in 2012 and beat them. So this game is always an interesting one. I don't know why. And then last year it was a dogfight as well. It's just one of those games where Vanderbilt knows that their football program isn't as great as or premier as the other SEC teams. So they're out just like turn the lights off. Just like every other team, they're out. They're going to come out and fight and hit you in the mouth. They're going to play with nothing to lose. But they've kind of improved, and
they're certainly a better team
than what
year.
they've been. And their receivers, they're no joke. So this Mizzou secondary they're going to have to bring their A game out of things. But buckle up for tomorrow.
Health of the secondary is going to be a big thing to monitor throughout this week going up against some of Vandy's DBs. We'll see how their quarterback situation works out as well. But road games in conference, it's never easy, no matter who you're playing. Don't write off Vanderbilt by any means.
Never. But don't do that, especially Missouri. You don't want to do that.
Especially Missouri.
You do not want to do that.
But that'll go wrap things up for this episode live from St. Louis. We'll be back again from the box in Nashville next weekend. So for Jaden and Parker, we will see you guys then.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, just click the subscribe button below. And you can find this podcast through the Apple Podcast app or for iPhone, or the Google Podcast app for Android, or whatever app you use to listen to your podcast. We are also available on Spotify. Just search for Rock M Radio. And if you like other sports, Fans First Sports Network is a podcast network that has coverage of all other teams, Major League Baseball, MLS, NFL, whatever you want to listen and read about. It is a great network full of really fantastic podcasts. So look them up and subscribe to any and all of those podcasts. Rock M Radio will be back with more episodes coming soon. Thanks.